We can start right now. Hello.
Joe, how are you? Okay.
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm grateful to be part of Agile Israel.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm grateful for it.
Thank you. So first, we'll make you co-host. Okay. Okay. And now, without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Joe Justice. Okay. With such a name, it has to be Justice. I'm sure you got this joke before. Okay. I can suggest a lot of lectures about it. However, Joe is going to talk about Agile in hardware. Joe is a TED speaker. He's the founder of WIKISPEED and operated Agile at Tesla from Tesla Fremont. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Okay. He created the disciplines of extreme manufacturing and Scrum at hardware. Okay. And above all, the justice methods. Were I correct, Joe? Excellent. So, Joe, without further ado, you have the screen and the audience at your will. Good luck. May the Scrum be with you.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome so much to Agile Israel. I have 8 minutes before my product owner class comes back from lunch break because I thought all of this was tomorrow. Now, that said, on TED, they don't even give you that much time, so I'll do my best. Welcome to Agile Hardware. In 2006, I started building cars with Agile methods, and we set 4 world records. In 2012, I became the first automotive manufacturer to accept Bitcoin. I was on the cover of Bitcoin magazine issue number 3. Bitcoin was worth about $8 a Bitcoin then. Now it's worth right around $33,000. So that move worked out. That was a smart investment. In 2020, I joined Tesla and I operated Agile at Tesla from the world headquarters in Fremont, California in the United States. That was during Tesla's largest stock price rise of all time. In fact, that's one of the largest stock price rises of any company ever in the history of publicly traded markets. And I got to be in the company when that happened and running Agile at Tesla there. I'd like to show you what I learned about Agile working in Tesla and what I got to do. It's all about how fast we release new product. If Tesla releases 27 changes in hardware in production per model per week. And I've made a chart here to correlate that with Toyota and several other automotive manufacturers. You see Tesla's total company value is $880 billion now. It's actually higher than this chart. Toyota is 210 billion US dollars. For Toyota, a hardware change is 2.5 to 4 years. If you add up VW, Daimler, and Volkswagen, that includes Porsche, that includes Bentley, that includes most of Europe's automotive manufacturing, Skoda, etc. Their total value is $180.82 billion US. And they are a little slower. It's about 4 years for what they call a minor model change, a change in production. GM, Ford, Fiat, Chrysler, which is now Stellantis with Peugeot, is even slower. They're closer to 4 years as well for a minor change. And their total value combined, adding all those companies together, is 84 billion. The executives agree. All of the executives of these companies say agility is their #1 priority. And the reason why is for speed. Volkmar Denner, the CEO of Bosch, 300,000 employees worldwide, is my direct client. And Volkmar says agility is to increase our speed. Akio Toyoda, the CEO of Toyota, sent his son to be trained by me, Daisuke Toyoda, who's the next CEO of Toyota. And Akio says the most important job for the CEO is to increase the speed of change. Herbert Diess, the CEO of Volkswagen, who my partner works with directly, says the big question is, are we fast enough? And my CEO, Elon Musk, says pace of innovation is the only thing that matters. I worked directly with Bill Gates from 2008 to 2010. And what I was able to learn from Bill Gates is do everything in parallel. And so I split cars into parallel executable projects. It turns out when you're inside a company like Tesla and you're splitting cars into parallel executable projects or modules, it looks just like the Spotify model. Henrik Nieberg had it right. And my best friend, Paul Takin, when he rolled out agility across ING Bank, did the same thing. This has created what's called Justice's Law of restructuring a company. You cut your product into modules, and then each team has a module, and that's it. That's the company. The modules of the system define the structure of the organization, or more simply put, the modules of the product define the structure of the company. That's why when I work with a company for agility, it's a company restructuring. I had a chance to work with the leadership team at Amazon. Jeff Bezos insists to never have a meeting where 2 pizzas couldn't feed the entire group. Across Amazon, we commonly understand that to be 6 people. So now we have small teams owning a module of the vehicle. When I worked in Silicon Valley, I learned you have company as a service teams instead of management. These companies are flat. They have almost zero management. There's almost no hierarchy at all. It's too slow. Instead, you have company as a service teams to provide security, facilities, human resources, legal defense, and the actual company is these module teams that integrate directly together to make the product in these very short cycles. When I worked with Elon Musk, what I really learned from Elon is there's no marketing department. Your only goal is what's possible according to the laws of physics. A lot of people don't understand when Elon Musk talks about first principles thinking. There's a lot of good logic around it, and Elon himself has said several pages worth of information. What it really translates to be inside Tesla is there is no product goal unless it's ultimately what's possible according to the laws of physics. There's no market segmentation. There's no minimum viable product. It's simply what is physically possible. That's your only goal. That allows the people leading the products, I'll call them product owners, to innovate completely freely without ever having to wait for marketing targets or ever benchmark another competitor. That of course changes how production works. All the robots in production have flexible hands because they're assembling different parts about every 3 hours. The parts themselves have known stable interfaces, just like a software API. This lets the teams iterate the designs very quickly. I summed it up in a tweet: automation in hardware and software and management with test in the loop is in fact the answer. Humans are for creative problem solving. Automation is for everything else. For more information on the technical practices, I highly recommend Paolo Sammicheli's landmark book, Scrum for Hardware. The second half of the book is all the technical and engineering practices that make this work. Here's what it really looks like. Here's the largest enclosed space on the planet, Tesla's Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada. They use a technique called modular XY construction. This building is not the final shape. The final shape is an octagon. You can see it's being built cube by cube. The next cube is a tent. It's the same cube, it's the same tent you would buy on Amazon. Inside that cube, they're designing and building batteries inside that tent. And then the next piece of the factory is built on top of them with feedback from the people in the tent. That lets the construction just in time be customized to what the people in the tent need. When that factory cube is completed, the tent is taken down. And if the battery production and quality does not increase, the inside of that cube of the factory is gutted. It's rebuilt because the only purpose of building a building was to make it faster than the tent. For existing office buildings, like near where I worked, they use modular Z construction, where new office buildings are erected on top. And here's how new buildings start: with tents self-organized in the parking lot. All the time we pull missions, new missions of what to build for the company, and we walk out into the parking lot and start building. The sun's pretty hot in California and you can get a sunburn. So we order shades on Amazon and put them up over us. To increase the speed of our work, we start building a building. If you've seen Tesla's Gigafactory Berlin, it's largely complete in 90 days. It's the fastest construction of factories ever happening on the surface of the earth. Teams each have a scrum board, so we know who's on the team, and we rotate which teams we're on about every 4 hours. We run approximately 3-hour sprints. The team sizes range. They're usually around 25 people. We have group scrum boards to keep track of all teams at once. And my apologies, it's time for me to get back to my class because I had the time wrong. This keynote was super important to me. At least I got the most important stuff. To learn more about group scrum, please read my upcoming book. It should be published later tonight. It's called Scrum Master, the Agile Training Seminar for Business Performance. I think you're amazing. Please tweet any questions at me if you like. Please LinkedIn with me if you want. I will rejoin the conference to listen to future sessions as soon as my class is done.
And now we've got a little bit of change in the agenda. Joe Justice that managed to have a speech for only a few minutes at the beginning will be able to elaborate more, and basically we can continue with the important session that he started this morning. Joe, are you there?
I am, and you have the coolest thing on your head I have ever seen in my life.
Because I took a shower without having the brush, so practically this is the problem, okay? Usually I have another things, but this is it, okay? You also have a nice hair on your side.
I call this one Flock of Seagulls.
Correct. Good. So practically, oh, I see that my camera is not working. So let me.
You can come join me in the room for Q&A if you'd like. Okay. To the after party session. So everyone that would like to ask you more questions can.
Excellent. So in the meantime, until I will dry my hair, Joe, you have the wheels. Okay, in order to continue your remarkable lecture that was interrupted in the middle of the night for you. Okay.
You're too kind. You're too kind. It is now 2 in the morning where I am, so I'll do my absolute best.
Excellent. Good.
I'm sharing my Chrome here. This is the employee handbook that I was handed when I joined Tesla. And the only reason I can share this is because someone else leaked it. So I'm not violating my NDA. It's always a trick. There's so many things I want to say, but I want to respect my agreements. So I've got to dance around them. Luckily, this gem, this is essentially the modern Agile Manifesto, and someone else leaked it. I'll put the link in the chat. How do I do that while I'm screen sharing?
You just press the chat.
Okay, I think I've just done that. Oh, not direct only to Evan, although Evan, you're awesome. To everyone. Bam. Okay, there's the link. This is, in my opinion, nothing less than the new Agile Manifesto, or way better, the 20 years evolution. And I want to read at least some of it to you. This is 4 pages long, and this is what I was given when I joined the company. The anti-handbook handbook. We're Tesla. We're changing the world. We're willing to rethink everything. We are a high-tech company unlike any other high-tech company. We are a car company unlike any other car company. We are different and we like it that way. Being different allows us to do what no one else is doing, to do what others tell us is impossible. If you're looking for a traditional employee handbook filled with policies and rules, you won't find one. Policies and rules tell you where the bottom is. They tell you how poorly you can perform before you get shown the door. That's not us. We prefer to have incredibly high standards and to hire exceptional people who enjoy pushing themselves to perform at the highest levels every day. We want to surround ourselves with people driven to do the right thing and act with integrity even when no one is looking. Is this you? If so, we're glad you're here and we look forward to do amazing things together. If this isn't you, you'll be more successful somewhere else. We don't mean to sound harsh, it's just the truth. Some of our high standards. If you're reading this, you're probably new to Tesla and have questions about some basic things like pay, like that, how things play out around here. Here's what we think you need to know to get started. As for everything else, such as information about pay policies, meal and rest breaks, time off, and leave policies, check the internal website at Hidden. Trust. We give everyone who joins our team a lot of trust and responsibility. We operate with the assumption that everyone will do the right thing, including you. The truth is, some people have violated this trust or ignored their responsibilities. We won't change our approach just because of the few who have let us down. Instead, we let them go. Communication. Anyone at Tesla can and should email or talk to anyone else according to what they think is the fastest way to solve a problem for the benefit of the whole company. You can talk with your manager. You can talk to your manager's manager. You can talk directly to a VP in another department. You can talk to Elon. You can talk to anyone without anyone else's permission. Moreover, you should consider yourself obligated to do so until the right thing happens. That's page 1 of 4, but I want to explain what that actually means when you're in the company. In the first 10 minutes I was hired, just like everyone else, I had full authority to buy a robot. I could go out and buy land. I could do anything. Everyone is, when we talk about empowerment, I've never seen it anything like what is normal at Tesla. One of the teams I was on, a person working across from me was a convict. They'd just recently gotten out of prison. Another person at an angle from me was an MIT Sloan Business School graduate and helped run United States President Barack Obama's re-election campaign. And we were all on the same team together. That's the mix. Everyone has a full chance no matter what their background is. You're brought in and you're shown, here's the most important thing to do. Can you figure out how to do it? You are fully empowered. I have never had so much fun at work. I clearly remember walking through a 20-meter tall robot while it was moving inside it. And I had a small set of tools, and it was my job to solve a set of problems. I had just learned about those problems no more than 10 minutes before. That's how it goes. You're a commando or special forces at all times, and there's so much love and empathy and respect and care. It's radically exciting. The closest experience I ever had was running my own company, Team WIKISPEED, and I felt very much at home in Tesla. And it is now the most valuable automotive company on the planet. In fact, as of today, if you add the value of every other car company together, it is less than the value of just Tesla. And I don't think that's at all a mistake. This is what I craved when I got into this agile space. I love Evan talking about skilling up yourself as a manager if you want self-management. And I'll say Tesla is a company where that's mandated. It's mandatory. And all the Musk companies are. There is full interchange between the Boring Company, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and OpenAI. They all run exactly the same way. Your first seconds at work, you're told, here's the problems, solve them the best you can. Now, I really resonated with Evan's point about training, people not trained. In these Musk companies, you're not trained either. They expect you to go find out. And a lot of the stuff that's being done has never been done before anywhere in the world, so there's no one to train you. But you're expected to go and try to find out. And that's exactly what Elon does. Elon, as the CEO, spends 80% of his time on the line and in engineering. Elon doesn't own a house anymore. Elon sleeps in a sleeping bag in the factory. In fact, he often slept very near where I spent most of my time working. And he recently tweeted, and it's completely true, I don't spend much time thinking about high things. I spend almost all my time solving engineering and production problems. And that's it. I do think it's a little bit hilarious that this not an employee handbook that I just read to you says you can talk to anyone, you can talk to your manager, you can talk to your manager's manager, you can talk to a VP in another department. There are almost no managers. It's almost completely flat. I'm not sure which VPs and other departments they're talking about. Elon is on the line moving robots and bolting stuff together. And Elon owns the whole place and is the richest person on the planet right now. And Elon's got to wash his hands multiple times an hour because they're greasy like everyone else's. If you're in a knowledge work position in the company, you are also programming robots and pulling aluminum and cutting stuff with your hands. There is not a single position that's not physical. So everyone goes through a physical assessment before they're hired. And everyone goes through training to keep yourself in safe movement shape. Because the only reason you're there is to hasten the advent of sustainable transportation. There is no desk job. It doesn't exist. And there's more than 10,000 people at each site doing it. It's completely exhilarating. With that, I'd like to see if there are any questions or comments, and I'll try to answer anything I can without violating my non-disclosure agreement.
Well, it's such a coincidence and a very, how to say, good thing it happened to that it was leaked to the press. I don't want to know who did it, but okay, sounds amazing.
I'm a huge fan of the Not an Employee Handbook, and honestly, I would recommend every single company in the world adopt it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So do you hire in Israel? I love it. What about personal life? Oh, I adore that, Gila. There's two angles about that I appreciate and I'd love to share. One is Musk finally started taking sustainable pace into account. And how it works now is everyone works 12-hour shifts 3 or 4 days a week. So that's 36 hours one week and it's 44 hours the next week. I think I just did the math right. It is 2 a.m. where I am. And what that means is you have 4 days off. And honestly, the first of those, and maybe the second, is just recovery. But then you still have 1 to 2 days every week to have passion projects, engage in hobbies, engage in family life, other things like that. Now you have an option to work 7 days, 12-hour shifts. You do. And there's a way that that is also sustainable. This might sound insane, but if you've done it, I guess it wouldn't sound insane. And I'll try to explain what that is. There's a theory of life and happiness that Orange Book _ on Twitter tweets about once every 15 minutes. And it's far and away my favorite account on Twitter. That's Orange Book _ on Twitter. And that theory of life is the ideal life is from when you wake up until when you go to sleep, being engaged in work you're excited and interested about and you believe makes a difference in the world. And when you do that, life is like a marathon in a very, how to really say this, in a really comfortable way. And I think people who feel they've found their place in the world or the universe and why they're born, that's supernatural and really comfortable. And I learned a lot about healthy, sustainable pace and fitness doing that, doing 12-hour shifts. I will say it's fully sustainable, but I'll also say there's some relationships that aren't compatible with that. And you need to pick what's important to you. And I think professional athletes and educators and people who follow passion projects and really excellent artists of all types do exactly that. And I think there's a lot of people that just want your time. And that's a beautiful thing. you have to prioritize that. And as Henrik Nieberg famously said in Product Ownership in a Nutshell, an excellent product owner's favorite word is no, and practices it every day in front of the mirror. Because especially the more capable you become, the more people want your time. And the most respectful thing someone else can do for you is do something that gives you more time instead of taking it. And I think 12-hour shifts, for example, even 7 days a week, or even longer than 12-hour shifts, are not only sustainable, they're fulfilling. But that said, the requirement is 3 to 4 a week alternating. So you have 3 or 4 days off every week if you want them. Oh, there's more. Have they started with the philosophy and practice from the very beginning? It evolves. So Musk famously says that Elon has never taken a course on productivity or project management. Even with all the Agile I was doing and teaching in Tesla, I never got to certify Elon as any awesome Agile credential. And yet Elon does almost everything I would have tried to recommend anyway. And I like to think I'm really good at this Agile stuff. I like to think I'm totally pro. And how Elon got there is by pursuing a project goal and continually retrospecting. And with many, many retrospective cycles, you'll reinvent excellent practices in a hurry. And the Musk companies have done that. So they didn't start with that, with the same way of working that the Musk companies work now. They iterated towards it. In the beginning, it was much more the negative Silicon Valley show up and look busy culture that we just heard Evan share in very clear detail. Joran says, if 10,000 people can solve any problem, how don't this create a mess? There's a strategy that many Agilists use that's very common in the Musk companies called walk up simple. And it's really hard. And Evan was talking about it too when he talks about the fun work and the drudgery. The drudgery is making really important work so clear that if you walk up to it in 5 minutes or less, you immediately understand how to contribute. And that's the real work in a company like Tesla, making incredibly complicated things, some of the most complicated stuff ever undertaken by humans, be walk up simple. And that's what that's one of the things these companies are really good at doing. So your team will swarm on a new product or project or mission, and in 5 minutes or less, you'll be running at it full speed because the product has been kitted. It's been made walk up simple. And that's what prevents the entire company from being a mess. And that is excellent execution. That's a very high level of passion and understanding to make these complicated things walk up simple. And that's one of Elon's gifts, and he helps teach that, like Evan was talking about, teaching. In this pseudo flat structure, how many people can directly address Joe a day? A lot of the teams are around 25 people, and that group can easily address each other very quickly. A cross group is more challenging. You can jog over to another group and get someone's time, but that does pull them out of their current group. So more often you're doing instant messaging on your phones, and you're checking that maybe once a minute as you're working on robots and doing teamwork and swarming. Yeah, I mean, glancing at it, right? Just glancing, and then maybe a rapid 3-word fire back, and about once a minute throughout your 12 hours. And that lets you have this hive mind, this cloud mind, and there's excellent apps that help facilitate that communication. When I joined, I think in the first minute I was an employee, my phone auto downloaded 12 new apps, and they change in real time, and anyone can change an app. And so you're constantly having a dynamic app set, and that helps you be connected to what you need to know visually with icons, and it helps you scale yourself up, right? Because also it's fully global. You don't want to have your area of effect just the 24 people around you. How do you know track status of certain goals project? Visually. Most of the work is, the advantage of Agile and hardware is you can see it. And the difficulty of Agile and hardware is you can't see it. So you have to make a post-it note. Is the login function in doing or is it done, right? In hardware, you see it. And is the new solar roof product in doing or done? And you can see it, it's right there. It's either wrapped in packages being loaded onto electric trucks to be delivered or it's not. So the buildings are structured so that it looks kind of like a Kanban board or a really good Scrum board, where you physically see the work as what stage in the value stream map it's in. And that's an art all by itself, but that's what excellent, elegant physical work planning is. And that's part of Walk Up Simple. So the products look like they're on a Scrum board, but they're the real physical products you're working on. With hardware, there are long lead times for manufacturing the hardware. So is there long planning ahead? How does that work with agility? There's very little long planning. Many hardware companies will bonus the procurement team on how cheap they procure, and speed of turnaround of supplier is less important in choosing a supplier for most companies than cost. At Tesla, it's the opposite. And at my own company before Team WIKISPEED, it's the opposite. It's who can deliver the fastest. And if the company can't deliver in less than a week, they don't get the bid. And that's true for almost every single part of every single piece in Tesla, including brand new product development. And because most companies can't, that's why Tesla makes most of their own product. And that's how you get 3-hour-a-day changes. Yes, Ajimeh.
So you mean that they are not willing to have a business relationship with companies that are not ready to ship something within 1 week? That's amazing.
Correct. Correct. They just won't get the business.
The bolt maneuvering, I would call it.
Well, most companies are biased towards cost savings, and Tesla is biased towards speed, which makes it very compatible with how I understand agility. I understand agility to be how quickly you can change, and that works great. All of the agile tools work great in a company like Tesla. SpaceX really didn't want to make their own rocket pumps. They're a really complicated piece of machinery that dumps huge amounts of fuel very quickly into rocket engine nozzles. And they put out RFPs saying who can make rocket pumps, and they got a bunch of responses, and no one could do it in less than 4 years. No one. And SpaceX said, well, I guess we have to make our own rocket pumps. And they 3D print them every 3 hours. Every 3 hours, there's a new and improved design around the clock forever. How do 4-hour sprint works? When do you plan retro?
Joe, I'm just guarding you because I know that what is your time, okay? So whatever you want, just hand me back the wheels. Okay?
Oh, you're awesome. I'll attempt to survive through the current batch of questions. Thank you so much, Ajimeh.
The minute you don't know the answer, you can stop.
Yeah. Or invent something. Go ahead.
We will try to perform with integrity and honesty. The sprint lengths vary. Some of them are shorter than an hour. It depends on the level of automation, honestly. So if it's something entirely new where there's no automation, the sprints are going to be longer. If it's something that the company's been doing a few months or even a few years, it's heavily automated in design, build, test, and deploy. So then the sprints are really short. So planning is then a commensurate percentage, not intentionally time boxed. You just don't need to plan that long if it's going to be only 4 hours of work. It's 5 minutes or less then. And of course, it's right at the beginning. How do you keep a positive attitude towards so many retros? In the beginning, it's probably largely problems. The speed of fixing stuff gets people excited. So if we find a problem and fix it, people stay pumped up. If we find a problem and parking lot it, people lose motivation. So it's trying to keep retrospectives focused on what we can fix, and then it keeps the energy high. Do you feel 25 people in a team is effective? Not too many communication channels. Oh, totally good point. Okay, if there's a topic of contention, communication pathways math tells us you want 5 people or less. If there's not a topic of contention, you can scale massively. Now that's tough because we don't know when a topic of contention will emerge. So if it does, we want to rapidly split into sub-teams. And that's how we'll solve those problems. We'll split the problem that's contentious into sub-teams of 5 people or less. That's the only way to handle it. If there's not currently contention and the work is walk up simple, you can have hundreds of people mob on it. Sounds like too many task switching. Doesn't it hurt the results? It would if the work wasn't done. So a lot of the design, build, test, and deploy work is so automated that you're finishing new work in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, or less. You're right. You don't want to context switch until the work is done. So the sprint length is determined by how quickly can we bring at least one product to done, or a batch of products. And usually it's a batch of products, like a couple hundred. And I mean, it's very fast. There's a video showing how fast this stuff is. It's the current battery production. These things, it's machine gun fast, new product development. And I'm not sure how many people even believe it, but it's completely true. The production is machine gun fast, and it's changing about every 3 hours what's being produced. So what's different between that and a normal factory is a lot of the machines are on casters. They're on wheels. You can unlock them and roll one machine out of the way and roll a different machine in. So you have teams swarming on a machine to change it and test it, and then they roll it into the production line. Also, it's not actually a line, which I'm really happy I get to say. Elon published a YouTube tour of the factory, and you can see it's not a line, so now I can say it. It's not single one-piece continuous flow. That'd be too slow to change. Instead, it's what the human body does, or any living system. There's cells, not in a flow, not in a line, and work flows in every direction as needed. Joe, do you have a kind of list of these inspirational examples? Because I encounter a lot of this can't do mentality. Yeah, me too. I'd say some people don't want to change, and you're better off creating a new company. Joe, can you clarify how coordination of integration between components, parts, teams, and the like work? Known stable interfaces really helps. It's just like microservices and software where you have a known API. If the API changes without announcing itself, you can't communicate, right? It's the same in hardware. We have to agree on the plug-in points and the stress and strain and data communication and heat and electricity communication between those points, those modules. So we do a lot of contract first design and object-oriented architecture. The speed of things make energy high. Yes, inertia matters so much. And if there's any management tactic I learned, it's attempt to keep inertia high, attempt to keep a regular cadence of win. And that it helps a lot if you can. And the short sprints help with that too. How to handle the recycling and various environmental impact issues. When you're changing this fast, say you have one scrap part per change, something that didn't work, and which is a great yield if you only have one, maybe three scraps per change, and you're making changes every 3 hours, you're going to have a lot of scrap in just one day. So the relationship with recycling companies is a top input and output for management of the facility. And you have these huge recycling bins, just as huge as the materials bins of stuff coming in. And that's one of the highest uses of the Tesla electric semi, is moving recycling in and out. Now, the company tries to recycle most of its own good, most of its own product. Of course, other companies will buy the recycling as well. How is system architecture dealt with to design the contracts you mentioned? How often can that be changed? The system contracts are renegotiated multiple times a day. They have to be renegotiated with anyone who shares the interface. And so that complexity depends on how many teams share that interface. Everybody, thank you so much. That was the current batch of questions. I will attempt to answer any question that comes to me on Twitter, if you like to. And I do teach an Agile Hardware professional class on Europe time on March 23 and 24. And I'm not here to sell a class, but if that's something you need, or you know someone who needs it, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to have you in the class. I also just finished a book. It's called Scrum Master, the Agile Training Seminar for Business Performance. And I'm really proud of it. I think I knocked it out of the park. I published it at the beginning of January, and then I found it was full of grammatical errors, so I unpublished it. Luckily, Amazon lets you do that. I just got the grammatical errors through edit. I intend to publish it tomorrow. So please take a look for that on Amazon. I would love to get some 5-star reviews.
Good. Out of how many stars?
I think Amazon has 5.
Okay. Good. Thank you very, very much, Joe. Justice has been done. Good. And I will not ask you to go to a breakout room to answer questions, to save you the nights and let you go to sleep. So thank you again. Okay. Excellent. And we'll see you in more Agile events.